Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo, back at it on Sunday for another New York Giants video, my friends. Today, you might hate our topic, but it's the dead of the offseason, and I genuinely think that this is a possibility, and Anthony does too. Based on a variety of reasons, we're going to give you a justification as to why we think Evan Engram could have a nice bounce-back season in 2021. Now, I know the first thought that goes through your head is the drop against the Eagles, the drops against Seattle, the interceptions that were directly correlated to Evan Engram, and I continuously have nightmares about them every single night. No zombies, no Armageddon-type scenarios. Evan Engram dropping footballs is in my nightmares. So I'll tell you this, it's really hard to record this video and actually come up with these reasons, but there are good reasons, and we want to go through them because it makes a lot of sense. It has to do with Kyle Rudolph, it has to do with the play calling, it has to do with how this offense really is going to take a step forward in terms of progression and Daniel Jones going with them. So I'm excited to talk about this, Anthony. Evan Engram and his future, why we think he could have a good fifth year in the NFL. You know, the Giants did pick up his fifth-year option last year, so this will be his last year with the Giants unless they extend him. And he's got to show us something more than what he has, man. He's got to show us he can be a competent NFL tight end who can catch the football. He's an average blocker at best, and he's known for his pass-catching ability. So if he can't do that, then what good is he? And I want to talk about that. Where are his weaknesses? Where do they lie? How can we get around them? And, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, Anthony, my friend, how you doing today on this gorgeous Sunday afternoon?
I'm doing real good, and I do think that Evan Engram is going to bounce back in 2021. The main reason why, way less pressure for Evan Engram to succeed, to perform well. The pressure has been taken off of him. If you look at the 2020 season, the Giants had a clear lack of playmakers on offense, which is why they went so ham in the offseason trying to get playmakers for Daniel Jones, right? Saquon Barkley was out, and then their number one receiver was basically Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton was next to him. And then, basically, their most dynamic weapon on offense was Evan Engram after Saquon Barkley was injured. So, Evan Engram was the playmaker of that offense, which he really never should have been. But he was, and he was put into a situation where he had to do a lot more than he's capable of doing. He had to play those, underneath hook routes. He had to run those and try and make those contested catches in the middle of the field, 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. Now, that's not Evan Engram's game. The Giants made the promise, Joe Judge made the promise not to fit square pegs in the round holes when he got here. Well, the Giants, their hand was forced. They had a lack of playmakers, and they had some injuries on offense, so they kind of had to use these players in the way that might not play to their strengths. They had to misuse players almost because they just had a lack of talent on the roster. Now I think Kyle Rudolph is on the roster. He can do a lot of the things that Evan Engram can't do. Plus, Evan Engram is now combined with Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, all the playmakers that the Giants added, Saquon Barkley coming back. You have a lot less pressure on Evan Engram, but you still have a lot of great athleticism and a route running ability, the ability to separate. The thing with Evan Engram is in 2020, he was the most open receiver by far. Like, he was getting open, he was separating. He just wasn't holding on to the football, and that became a problem. So, of course, last season was really disappointing for him, even though he made the Pro Bowl. We all know that he played really, really poorly, but I absolutely do think that he's going to bounce back this next season.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, really. It's the middle of the field, 0 to 10 yards for the line of scrimmage, that he just simply can't catch the ball. I don't know what it is. Like, Daniel Jones is zipping in fastballs, and there's a lot of quarterbacks that throw much harder than Daniel Jones. And, you're looking at Evan Engram here, and you're saying, dude, your primary reason you're on this team is to catch the football. Your primary, reason and your attributes really state that if you are not catching the football at a high level, you are not contributing to this team's success. And I'll tell you what, Evan Engram was one of the only receivers last year that actually was able to create separation. He was the only one that was targeted heavily because Daniel Jones didn't really trust them. And in the scheme, Jason Garrett was just force-feeding Evan Engram because he was the only one that could take a ball and really get some yards after the catch. Golden Tate was washed. Sterling Shepard was being locked down by CB1s. Darius Slayton was clearly dealing with some sort of injury. Dante Pettis had a couple nice catches, but he didn't really play until later on in the season anyway. And CJ Board, another reserve guy. So Evan Engram was their primary target. They were force-feeding Evan Engram. There was a lot of pressure on Evan. He obviously could not handle it. And they obviously were trying to, force him to attack his own weaknesses, and that was catching the football 0 to 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. Now, he did drop a ridiculous amount of passes. His blocking is like average at best. His run blocking is average. He had a couple of good games in the run blocking scenario, but pass blocking is more just chipping in line and then, going out for a pass in the flats or attacking the seams or really just sitting down in those hook and curl routes. But the primary reason that I think Evan Engram is going to take a step forward is it because the Giants solved his weakness, right? They're like, Evan, we know you can't get over your weakness. We know that you've been working in the NFL for 4 years to try and get rid of this one dropping problem, and we're going to solve it for you. We're going to basically go out, get a tight end who's going to fill that exact need, and we're going to ask you to do different things instead. So they went out and got Kyle Rudolph, right? Kyle Rudolph is historically a very, very good pass-catching tight end. The guy's had over a 75% catch rate the past 3 seasons. He hasn't gone his last 4 seasons, he hasn't dipped below 70.4% catch rate, which is tremendous. The guy does not drop the football. He didn't drop the football at all the last 2 years. Now, if you look back to his 2020 season, you might say, okay, he only had 1 touchdown. But the season before that in 2019, which is not very long ago, this is pre-COVID, was 6 touchdowns. The guy is a red zone threat. He had 40 career red zone touchdowns. And he feasts in the middle of the field. He is the Jason Witten to Jason Garrett's offense. They tried to make Evan Engram the Jason Garrett to Jason Witten to Jason Garrett's offense. And it just did not work. It was never going to be a scheme fit. It was never going to be the right match. And I think that the Giants should have used Caden Smith more in that role. Last year, I think that was a big mistake on their part. Levine Toilolo is not effective in the running game. And I think that Evan Engram can now really utilize his strengths. It's just crazy to me because like he'll drop an easy, just sit down hook route in the middle of the field. And then he'll catch a one-handed ball on like a boundary pass. It's just ridiculous catch. And you're like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why is it that he does this? And I think it's just concentration drops a lot of times because he jumps sometimes before he catches the ball. He like does weird things. His gloves are unstrapped. His gloves are like cement, so he doesn't actually let the ball like absorb. He doesn't let his hands absorb the ball. It, like just bounces off his hands sometimes. And I have to say, I think that if he got rid of that problem, he'd be a top 5 tight end in the NFL with ease. Like I think he'd be one of the top 5 receiving tight ends in the NFL. That's his potential. And I think the Giants are sitting here like, we can't give up on that potential because we know it's there. If he just solves this, we can get away with it. And I think that Kyle Rudolph is going to solve that problem for him. Anthony, when you're looking at Evan Engram, how would you like the Giants to use him? Would you like them to use him in a jumbo tight end role, a jumbo slot kind of guy, spread him out wide, get creative with him, attack the seams, those spray fades on the outside, push him vertically? What do you think, it should be going on with Evan Engram moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they should use him in a variety of ways. Of course, he could still play the inline tight end. He is a traditional tight end. He's never been a wide receiver. He's always been a tight end. So, of course, we're going to see him inline plenty. But I'd also like to see him line up in the slot a lot and even a little bit at the Z receiver position. He actually does have one of the best release packages out of any tight end in the NFL. Like, he gets off the line of scrimmage and just breaks cornerbacks down and goes. There's a couple clips that I recall from the Cincinnati game against the Bengals. That was his career high in receiving yards in a game against Cincinnati. He had a couple moments where he was lined up outside one-on-one with a cornerback, and he just burns them off the line of scrimmage, goes deep, makes a vertical play, and calls in like a 40-plus yard reception. He did that twice in that game. He did that against Philadelphia. They had him lined up on the outside in the gun bunch formation, and he toasted the cornerback off the line of scrimmage and then dropped the pass, as we all know. So he has the ability to get open. He has the ability to beat cornerbacks off the line of scrimmage. It's just about making the catch, concentrating on catching the football. That's been his problem, and that's always been a struggle for him throughout his career. He's dealt with drops, since his rookie season. We hope that he gets rid of that problem, and he's going to really need to if he wants an extension with the team, because the drops are just killer. A lot of them lead to interceptions, tipped passes that get caught by the defenders. So in terms of where I want them to use Evan Engram, though, I think, Kyle Rudolph does fit that underneath role really well, that Jason Witten kind of role. But when you look at, like, maybe the more modern offenses in the NFL, and maybe even the more modern Cowboys offenses, right, with that, when they had, like, Blake Jarwin, who was a little bit more athletic than a Jason Witten. Jason Witten kind of had, like, steel balls attached to his ankles, and he was just kind of moseying his way down the field, but making great receptions. You had Blake Jarwin, who was a more athletic tight end in that Jason Garrett offense towards the end of his career with Dallas, and he was able to get vertical, run some deep outs, run some corners, stuff like that, and I think that's where you want to see Evan Engram used. I mean, he has ran a sluggo to perfection before, which is a double move route that typically you only see your best wide receiver on the team run, and I've seen Evan Engram, a tight end, run that route to perfection. So let's use him in more creative ways. Let's get him in one-on-one situations with cornerbacks, not just linebackers, with corners. Let him take a corner one-on-one and just beat them with his good route running, because Evan Engram is truly a phenomenal route runner from his position. So I want to see him out wide. I want to see him in the slot. I want to see him move around and do a whole lot of different things. But mainly, I just want to see him run a more complete route tree. Not just, 5-yard stick routes, not just a hitch 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, because that's pretty much what the majority of his routes were last year. And I think the majority of his routes should be 5-10 yard outs, corner routes, post routes, sluggos, slants even, get him on some more creative routes rather than just run 5 yards and turn around, because that's not Evan Engram's game. Those are hard routes to separate on. Usually those are routes that you need to make a contested catch on, and he's not a contested catcher. He's a guy who gets wide open because he's a good route runner, and then he takes off with it, as we saw 75-yard touchdown reception against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2019. Ran a crossing route, which I'd like to see him run more. Ran a crossing route, caught it, turned upfield, and he was gone, 75 yards. That's rare from a tight end. Not many tight ends in the NFL can do that. There's probably like 3 total, and Evan Engram is one of them. So that's how they need to start using him. Get him open, get him in space, let him run some routes that go further downfield than 5 yards. He'll make the catch, and he'll run with the ball, and he'll make some impressive plays. I know that very well, and I really do fully believe that if they just use him a little bit better, Evan Engram will have a really, really good season this year.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is just so polarizing. I don't really understand it. Like, one moment he'll make a tremendous catch, and the next one he'll drop, and it'll be an interception. It's just like, just be consistent, man. That's all we're asking. Just be consistent, and you will be a top 5 player at the position in this league, and you'll get paid, man. If he has a good season this year, he will get paid. I guarantee it. If he has a good season this year. And, I'm looking at Kyle Rudolph's reception depth right now. The guy literally straight up feasts in the one area that Evan Engram struggles to catch balls in. In 2019, he had 18 receptions. He had 16 receptions on 18 targets, so he caught majority of his passes. He had 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. He literally did not drop the ball in that area, and we know this because he had no drops to his name. They were just probably bad passes. It's like straight up, he dominates in the middle of the field, and really just the 0 to 10 yard range, he dominates. You can push Evan Engram deep, man. You can get him 20+ yards downfield. He's got the speed and size. I will take Evan Engram on a slot corner or a safety any day of the week in the seams. You know what I mean? Like, I want to attack him in that way all the time. Like, push him vertically. Get this offense to be more aggressive downfield. And I think that's where we're headed with this offense specifically, because we know, Kenny Golladay said it first, this offense is good. The vision for it, I'm really excited about. That was part of the reason why I wanted to come here. They sold me a vision on the offense that was really attractive. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us that this offense is going to be far different than last year, because last year we were pretty much never throwing downfield. We were only throwing 0 to 10 yards. We were never doing anything creative aside from the occasional end around that ended up being a bust. So I think now we're looking at an offense that's going to take a step forward. We brought in guys to really develop route concepts and schematics that will push the ball downfield. And Evan Engram is going to play a big part in that, guys. I want you to let me know in the YouTube section if you think he's going to have a bounce back year. I imagine most people will not think he will, but I think the Giants did a great job seeing that weakness of his, solving it, fixing it, and moving on. And they're saying, and now they don't have to force feed him in the middle of the field right there and really hope for the best in terms of him catching the football. And I think that's the biggest part here, guys. I think Evan Engram's going to have a bounce back year. I'm excited about it. Anthony, the last thing I want to touch on a little bit aside from Evan Engram, do you think that Caden Smith and Levine Toilolo, do you think that there's a position battle there? And Kelvin Benjamin, do you think there's a position battle with those 3? Or do you think that Caden Smith is going to get the short end of the stick on this?
No, I think that Caden Smith is your backup for, more of a receiving role. He's your backup, I think, for Kyle Rudolph, because his playing style is pretty similar to Kyle Rudolph's. He's just not as talented. And then Levine Toilolo plays his own position. He's just a blocking tight end. Like, if you need your third tight end in the lineup to just be a blocker, that's who's going to go in. And Caden Smith will be, maybe it's not traditional to have 4 to 5 tight ends on the roster, but I think in a tight end heavy offense that the Giants have, it would make sense to have 4 to 5 tight ends on the roster. They really rely on their tight ends. Evan Engram has had injury problems in the past. Kyle Rudolph is coming off of a foot injury. You need a good backup in Caden Smith, and I think that's what they have there, the backup tight end, and then they have their blocking tight end, which is you could say that's a starter. Starter at blocking tight end is Levine Toilolo. Of course, that's not a starting position, but he is your blocking tight end. Caden Smith is your backup tight end. And then Kelvin Benjamin, let's see how he does in training camp, preseason, and all that to see if he actually makes it onto the roster. But in terms of a positional battle, I think that Kelvin Benjamin's just battling with everyone else that's towards the bottom of the roster right now to try and make the roster. It's just going to be who plays the best, who's the most important to the team's success. And that's what it comes down to for Kelvin Benjamin. But Caden Smith, I feel personally, he's safe. I can't see why they would cut him because he is your perfect backup tight end. And then Toilolo, I'm not the biggest fan of him. I don't think he's all that talented. But the Giants like him a lot, and they like him as their blocking tight end, and they restructured his contract. So I imagine that he's going to stick around and continue to be just their primary blocking tight end if they ever go out with 3 tight ends or even 4 tight ends in a jumbo set.
Yeah, I think that's about right. This tight end group is kind of filled with different options. I'm kind of rooting for Kelvin Benjamin. I feel like I would love to see him just be our receiving tight end behind Evan Engram or Kyle Rudolph, or even act as like a possession receiver behind Kenny Galladay. He can do that. If he cross-trains a tight end and wide receiver, he can be that, like, just reserve, like, backup worst-case scenario as a possession receiver of Galladay, and anything happens to him, knock on wood. And then in the tight end group, he can at least be a receiving option. And, Kyle Rudolph and Evan Engram are probably about average blockers. They're not above average by any means. So there's that to consider as well. Kelvin Benjamin's got the biscuits working for him. He's got some size, and I'll tell you what, he takes up a lot of room. So I love to see that, of course. But guys, let me know what you guys think about Evan Engram. I think it's going to be relatively negative, but I hope you guys have a little bit of optimism regarding him. We know what he can do. We've seen the positives. It's just a lack of consistency. It's just the drop passes that really come back to bite him in the butt, my friend. So, as always, hope you have a fantastic Sunday. Short little video for you guys going over why we think Engram is going to have a good 2021 season. Make sure to keep in touch with us on the voicemail. You can see that on YouTube. And make sure to leave us a voicemail for our Monday and Tuesday mailbags, and we will get to those appropriately. Also, this week we'll be rolling out a membership program, and if you want to get involved in that, it's a very short fee per month. We're going to have exclusive level content, Madden, fantasy leagues, exclusive live chats, and, streams, and you'll have early access to some of our interviews and videos. So that'll be really fun as well, my friends. So make sure to subscribe below on YouTube, hit the like button, and the like button's super important. Please hit the like button. It means a lot to us to show your support. It helps our videos too, and helps us grow tremendously. So thank you so much for that, and we'll catch you guys all in the next video.